Dodger baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Chicago Cubs. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Saturday afternoon to you, wherever you may be. We're at Dodger Stadium, Game 2 of the three-game series with the Cubs, and what a job that is. The Cubs have won 82 games. They are 19-4 in the month of August. They are 23 of the last 28, and for good measure, they've won 8 of the last 10 games played on the road. They come right out today with Jason Hamill, a record of 13-6. He has allowed 3 runs or less in 20 of his 24 starts. Although he certainly hit a bump in the road in Colorado, they roughed him up for 10 runs. He is 2-6 lifetime against the Dodgers, and he is 0-4 at Dodger Stadium. Julio Urias will be on the mound for the Dodgers. The young left-hander with a record of 4-2, 0-1 against the Cubs. They knocked him around at Wrigley Field. But his last start, he had 6 scoreless innings against the Cincinnati Reds. Tomorrow, the ace, John Lester, 14-4 against Brock Stewart, 0-2. We'll have the ball game coming up and a whole lot more right after this. Very pleasant Saturday afternoon to you, wherever you may be. We're at Dodger Stadium, Game 2 of the three-game series against the Chicago Cubs, who pulled one out of the hat last night with home runs twice by Chris Bryant. Dodgers trying to get well today. They're 1 game in front of the Giants, and the Cubs are 14 games in front of the Cardinals. In fact, when you look at the divisional leaders, you realize there's a pretty good gap. For the Cubs, they've won 82 games. For Washington, they've won 75. The Dodgers just 71. So for Joe Maddon's ball club, flying very high, and another prospect of a very tough opponent for the Dodgers. Following the Cubs, the Dodgers will leave town and go over to Colorado for 3, and then come home to play San Diego and Arizona. So for Joe Madden, who has written out his lineup, no dramatic change from last night, except perhaps behind the plate. Miguel Montero caught last night, Wilson Contreras today. Here is Joe Madden's lineup as the Dodgers take the field, and it will lead off with Dexter Fowler. Fowler will be followed by Chris Bryant, the hero of last night. Then Anthony Rizzo at first. Ben Zobrist, who played second base and left field last night, plays right field today. Addison Russell at short. Jorge Soler in left field. Wilson Contreras, the catcher. Javier Baez at second base. And a 13-game winner, Jason Hamill, on the mound. On the mound for the Dodgers, Julio Urias with a record of 4-2. He had a bad outing against the Cubs, recovered nicely. His last game, he had 6 scoreless innings against Cincinnati. But in Wrigley Field, in the first week in June, he allowed 6 runs in 5 innings, and the Dodgers lost that game 7-2. So Urias trying to stop the bleeding. Remember, the Dodgers almost no-hitted Thursday night and then drowned out last night on some very clutch Chicago hitting. We'll take a look at the Dodgers defensively, and here's the way they shape up. It'll be Gonzalez and Utley, Seager and Turner. Andrew Toles gets a start in left field. Then you have Jock Peterson in center, Josh Reddick in right, Yasmani Grandal behind the plate, and young Julio on the mound. So the Cubs roaring to go. They are 16-11 against the Western Division. They've won 8 of the last 10 games they've played on the road. In fact, their numbers are rather remarkable. The Cubs are 19-4 in August. Since the All-Star break, they are 29-10. Or, to shorten it up, they've won 23 of the last 28. For the Cubs, breezing now. A couple of more victories in the month of August than they would said a franchise record. Though we'll wait and see. Meanwhile, Dexter Fowler will lead it off. Fowler was on board in the 10th inning when Chris Bryant hit the home run to win the game last night, and Dexter had singled in the first inning. Among other things with Fowler, he has 6 leadoff home runs this year of his 10, so you have to be very careful when the game begins with Dexter. And hitting over 300 on the road. Urias into the windup. Julio kicks, comes to the plate, and the first one is outside. Ball 1, 1-0. Dodgers 1 game in front of the Giants. They play later on today. 1 ball and no strikes. Urias back high, ball 2. The Giant ball game will begin at 6:05 tonight. Mike Fulton-Evans will be on the mound for the Braves, and Jake Peavy really struggling. He's 5-9. He will start for the Giants. 2-0 pitch, and that's in for a strike, and the count 2-1. Chris Bryant on deck. Urias looks in, getting a sign from Grandal. 2-1 pitch on the way is hit foul outside of first down the line, and the count 2-2. For Dexter Fowler, in leading off, the Cubs are 63-26, 37 games above 500 when he's in the top spot in the lineup. Now the 2-2 pitch on the way. Urias delivers, and it's a little low. Also, the Cubs are 42-10 when Fowler scores a run. Well, he scored a run last night, okay, in the 10th inning with Bryant's home run. So 3-2 the count. Dexter, long and lean, 6'4", about 180. Swings, hits one foul down the right field line. Though he is still there, 3 balls and 2 strikes. Fowler, out of Alpharetta, Georgia, was drafted by the Rockies and came up with the Rockies 3 years after being drafted. So he made a rapid progress. They needed him in Coors Field to cover all that ground. They certainly don't need him for covering ground in Wrigley Field. Here's the 3-2 pitch on the way to Dexter, and it is low, ball 4. The Urias starts off with a base on balls. And the batter will be Chris Bryant.
Baseman number 17, Chris Bryant.
I mean, there are so many adjectives, so many things to say about Chris Bryant. Let's put it this way. Last night, he had a walk and 2 home runs. He scored 3 times. Otherwise, nothing happened with him at all. All he's doing is batting .303, 35 home runs, 89 runs batted in. He caught Nolan Arenado with his home run last night. So the big right-hand batter bends at the knees and waist. Urias delivers off speed, high and away, ball 1, 1-0. In his brief time in looking at Urias, fighting his control, he has walked 24, struck out 62. Now his 1-0 pitch on the way to Chris Bryant. Fast one, and that's in for a strike, and the count 1-1. Larry Vanover is the plate umpire today, so tomorrow David Rackley will be behind the plate. Larry Vanover is the crew chief, 23 years in the big leagues. 1-1 the count. Urias is set, looks over at first, comes to the plate low, put on a pretty good move. He had Fowler, an experienced base runner, racing back to the bag as he made the pitch to Bryant. For Larry Vanover, among other things in his splendid career, he was the plate umpire for Derek Jeter's final game at Fenway Park. Fowler at first, start of the game, Bryant at the plate. Urias looks over at Fowler, still looking, now to the plate, and it's foul back off to the right. 2-2 the count. Chris Bryant, one of the 2 phenoms out of Las Vegas, the other, the great outfielder Bryce Harper with Washington. They always tell the story. Harper was 10 years old and he hit 10 home runs in a tournament. Bryant was 9 years old and hit 7 home runs in a tournament. And their names always brought up. When one is mentioned, the other automatically is brought up. Urias ready on a 2-2 count. Left-hander goes to first. Fowler not sure. Goes back with a hand. We told you the earlier pitch of the plate, Fowler was getting back to the bag in a hurry, so he has certainly not read Urias. Not yet. Beautiful day. Temperature 73 degrees. All right, Bryant waiting with Rizzo, a left-hand batter on deck. A look over at Fowler. He's not going. And the pitch lifted to right field, not deep. In fact, it's going to drop. By the time Reddick picks it up, over to third goes Fowler on a fly ball single to right field. So first and third. Nobody out in the first inning. Urias in trouble, and Anthony Rizzo coming up. The Dodgers need innings. They're going to have to put an ad in the paper soon. A starting pitcher has to go more than 5. But it was Norris 5 last night, and then Baez, Blanton, Libator, and Jansen. The day before, Stripling went 5. That burned up Dayton and Chavez and Howell. Before that, Rich Hill's surprise. Great game, went 6 innings, but they still needed Baez, Libator, Blanton, and Jansen. So the last thing they need is to give the Cubs a bunch of runs in the first inning. Here's Rizzo, left-hand batter, slightly open stance, and has a look at a pitch that's low and away. Ball 1. Anthony Rizzo hitting .297. Among other things, he can hurt you with the long ball. 25 home runs, 88 runs batted in. First and third, Fowler at third, Bryant at first. Nobody out, top of the first inning. Urias looks in, now out of his set. Checks his runners at the corners, and the 1-0 pitch to Rizzo swung on and missed way out in front of an off-speed pitch, and the count 1-1. For the Cubs, they remember Wrigley Field, 6 runs charged against Urias, 5 earned, and I'm sure Julio remembers the experience as well. One ball and 1 strike to count. Urias checking, Bryant at first, Fowler at third, Zobrist on deck, and the 1-1 pitch. and that stayed up. Ball 2, 2-1. Anthony Rizzo, as a left-hand batter, has hit 88 home runs in the last 2 years. Chris Davis hit one today, so he's at 104. David Ortiz 102, and then you have Anthony Rizzo. Though Rizzo waiting, 2-1. He wears a slugger's number 44. The 2-1 pitch on the way. Rizzo swings right through it, and the count 2-2. By the way, Rizzo, since the period starting back in 2014, 22 of his home runs against left-handers. And Rizzo has homered more on the road than home at Wrigley. 2-2 pitch coming up. Urias ready, a high kick, and the next one is lined into right field, base hit. Scoring is Fowler. Bryant stops at second, and the Cubs are on the board. Just as they were last night. It took them a little longer. For the Cubs last night, they got a run after sending 6 to the plate. They get a run today after sending 3 to the plate and nobody out. So Rizzo, a line drive single into right field. Bryant stops at second. Fowler brings the run home, and the Cubs lead 1-0. So Urias, a tough start, a walk, 2 base hits, and a run. And now Ben Zobrist coming up. Zobrist, greatly appreciated by his teammates. He just plays solidly, very quiet, nothing flashy about him. In fact, Joe Madden referred to saying that he has no chrome. There are no highlights about him. He just grinds it out, hitting .283. Right-hand batter, has already played 3 positions as he takes a strike. Last night he played second base, finished up in left field, and today Ben is in right field, at least at the start of the game. 1-0 Cubs, 2 on, nobody out. Urias trying to find himself. Tough hitter up there at the plate in Zobrist. Ben waiting, and the strike 1 pitch on the way. Urias delivers a bunt on a curveball. Down to get it is Urias. His only play is to first, so the runners move up to second and third. So again, Zobrist does everything they ask him. In fact, when he was with Tampa, he played every position except pitch and catch. Well, they put the sign down for a sacrifice, and he gets the job done. So Rizzo advances to second. Bryant to third. It's 1-0 in favor of Chicago, and the batter is Addison Russell. Addison Russell is one of those fellows who might be well known in and around the Chicago area, but not throughout the game. But then when we tell you he has 19 home runs, 84 runs batted in, you get the idea he's quite an unknown shortstop. Urias with first base open and 1 out. 1-0 Cubs, and the pitch to Russell, high and inside, ball 1. 1-0 the count. Addison Russell, they figure he's going to be around for a long time. He's from Pace, Florida, lives in Miami. He was a first-round pick by the Oakland A's. With the Cubs last year, and now playing a full year with them. 1-0 pitch on the way, swung on and missed, 1-1. Russell is an even 6 feet, 195. At one time, he actually was up to 225, but he's worked that off. His first major league home run helped the Cubs beat the Brewers. 1 ball and 1 strike. Urias, a high set at the collarbone. Back he comes. A swing and a miss, and the bat goes into the crowd behind the Dodger dugout. Wow. So Russell losing his bat. That's quite a trick. Went all the way in the air over the Dodger dugout before going into the first row and rattling back into the second. So Russell coming back. By the way, the home run that Russell hit against the Brewers was the only run scored in the game, which brought back the great name Phil Cavarretta, who beat the Reds like that all the way back in 1934. 1-2 the count. Second and third for the Cubs. They have a run in the bank, leading 1-0. And the 1-2 pitch to Addison Russell is taken high up around the eyes. And the count 2-2. Hitting behind Russell, Jorge Soler. So Urias in a little trouble here at the start of the ball game. Julio looks in to get a sign. Soler waiting on deck. And the 2-2 pitch coming up. Urias delivers, swung on, fouled away. Addison Russell, to show you what kind of a player he is, and he's really just starting out. He's 22 years old. 84 RBIs. He had an RBI in 5 straight games and 1 in 9 of his last 10. And he has a chance to pick up a couple here. Urias set, and the 2-2 pitch on the way. And that's a breaking ball looked at for strike 3 call. Well, he's young. He's going to be fooled. But with 84 RBIs, let's put it this way, he is learning. He just looks at a breaking ball frozen at the plate and strikes out. So that's a huge out. The batter now, Jorge Soler, who spells that name S-O-L-E-R. Had a good night, 2 for 3 in San Diego Wednesday. Soler hitting .301 in the last 31 games. So 2 out, runners at second and third, 1-0 Chicago. And the first pitch on the outside corner, great changeup, 0-1 the count. Soler was behind. He missed 2 months, a left hamstring strain. He hurt it in June in Philadelphia, so he's only been back a little while. No balls and 1 strike. 1-0 Chicago, threatening for more. Urias delivers very high. That brought Grandal out of the plate. So young Russell strikes out looking at a curveball. And here is Soler trying to take advantage of a great start. Soler, big right-hand batter. Urias taking plenty of time. Not the time to make a mistake. The 1-1 pitch coming up. And that's waved at and missed. Another changeup. Not only was it a changeup, it was outside of the plate. Didn't make any difference. Soler was badly fooled and took a hack at it. One thing that Urias is doing, however, he's spending a lot of bullets. He has made 29 pitches so far. So number 30 will be this one. And the 1-2 pitch, high and tight. That drives Soler out of the box. Soler is from Havana, Cuba. He was, they tell me, the top player on Cuba's junior national circuit. Signed a 9-year deal with the Cubs. 9 years back in 2012, so it's got a long way to go yet. 2-2 pitch coming up. Urias delivers, breaking ball, but up a little. 3-2. Nope. He struck out Russell with a slow curveball, trying to mix him up on Soler, and Contreras waits on deck. Second and third, 1 in. 1-0 Chicago. Urias trying to stop the bleeding now. 3 balls and 2 strikes with first base open. Rizzo at second, Bryant at third. Long look. Gary Jones keeping an eye on the third base coaching box. Here comes the 3-2, and it is taken for strike 3 called. Another breaking ball. So both Russell and Soler go to school, and the teacher is young Julio Urias, and he got out of it well enough. And the Cubs lead the Dodgers 1-0. Won, but they missed scoring a bunch on nice pitching against Russell and Soler by Julio Urias. Let's take a look at the Dodger lineup. Chase Utley leads off at second base. Corey Seager at short. Justin Turner at third. Adrian Gonzalez at first. Then you have Josh Reddick in right. Jock Peterson in center. Andre Toles in left. And Julio Urias on the mound. On the mound for Chicago, Jason Hamill, and he's a tall drink of water. He is 6'6", about 220 pounds. Interesting, as a young father, his baby boy was born on his birthday. He was born in 1982, and the baby boy was born in 2011. He'll be working first off on Chase Utley, then Corey Seager, and then Justin Turner. First pitch to Chase from the long right-hander, in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Utley last night had a big double, made a great defensive play to prevent a run from scoring back in the fifth inning last night. Last week hitting .360, which is one reason why he's in there today. Now the strike one pitch is swung on, hit in the air to right center, moving over, looking at the center fielder is Zobrist, and Fowler makes the catch. One away. Let's take a look at the Cubs defensively. Rizzo and Baez, Russell and Bryant, Soler, Fowler and Zobrist, Contreras behind the plate, and Jason Hamill on the mound. The Dodgers now bring up Corey Seager, followed by Justin Turner. 1-0 Chicago, just the first inning. Seager, left-hand hitter, as you know, doing very, very well, putting up great numbers. We put up some numbers which we barely flashed for you. Maybe we have a chance to put them up again. Strike one pitch is a drive to center. Going back late is Fowler, watching this one go out. No wonder he went back late. So Seager hits a home run over the center field wall. And just like that, the Dodgers and Cubs are 1-1. For Corey Seager, 23 home runs, 62 runs batted in, and a brand new game. For Hamill, that would be the 19th home run that he has given up. It was a breaking ball down, but it was caught the plate, and Seager went after it. So 1-1, and the batter Justin Turner. Waiting on deck, Adrian Gonzalez. Little slider in for a strike, in the count 0-1. So the Dodgers give up one. Got away from two more that might have scored, and immediately Seager makes a record as a Dodgers shortstop. Fly ball to center coming off the bat, and Fowler is there easily. So Justin, the second out, and the batter will be Adrian Gonzalez. A couple of things about Jason Hammel. First of all, he had a problem physically. He would cramp up on the mound. And you know what the doctor decided? To eat potato chips during the games to stave off muscle cramps. Must have something to do with the salt. But anyway, since he's been eating potato chips, not a lot, but occasionally he'll eat a couple, it's helped him a great deal. The pitch is off the plate to Gonzalez. 1 ball and no strikes. Adrian, 7 for 21 the last 5 games, hitting .298. And the 1-0 pitch on the way. Breaking ball strike. 1-1. Yeah, we've heard a lot of things about what to do. Never heard about potato chips, but that's what they told Jason, and it's paid off. 1 ball and 1 strike the count. He's won 6 games since the All-Star break and gets a strike. Interesting for Corey Seager, with 23 home runs, he now has more home runs than any other Dodger shortstop ever in a single season. The next one low, and it's a 2-2 count. So Corey really a young leader for the Dodgers. Talking to Jock Peterson, and the 2-2 pitch coming up. Adrian waiting. Jason Hammel ready. Right-handed delivers, and it's pulled foul. Adrian Gonzalez against Hammel, hitting just .184. The Dodgers, of course, have missed him all year. Andre Ethier has a career batting average of .345 against Hammel. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Hammel delivers, and it's a little low, ball 3. Usually, Hammel handles most of the batting order nicely, except for the cleanup hitters. The cleanup hitters, in this case Gonzalez, have 6 home runs and hit .355 against him. So Jason ready. 3-2 is lifted to left field. Racing to his right is Soler in fair ground and makes the catch. 3 fly balls in the first inning, but the 4th one reached the seats. So we'll take another look at Corey. A breaking ball down, but caught the plate, and he hit it to where the pavilion caught it. 1-1 at the end of 1. Boys and girls together having fun in the ballpark, and we're off to the races in a 1-1 tie at the end of one inning. You can get a run a lot of ways. It took 31 pitches, and Urias surrendered a run. And in 13 pitches, the Dodgers got theirs. One swing of the bat by Corey Seager. So Wilson Contreras, followed by Javier Baez, and then the pitcher, Jason Hamill. Contreras is quite a story. Wilson was an outfielder. They converted him to a catcher, and from what I've heard, he wasn't going to go anywhere. He just was not a good catcher defensively. He wasn't hitting. Nothing was happening for him, and it looked like his chances of making the big leagues were very, very poor. But then after a couple of years struggling, he went home to Venezuela and did something in the Winter League in Venezuela. And by the time he came to spring training, all of a sudden, he knew how to play. So he's catching today, and Contreras promptly bangs one into left field for a base hit. Over to get it cautiously is Tolles, and holding on at first with a leadoff single is Contreras. So that's the third hit plus a walk given up by Urias. And the batter will be Javier Baez. So Contreras singles, and here's Baez. Baez with that red badge of courage. In this case, it's the blue extension covering the left side of his face. Obviously, he has been hit in the face. Baez from Puerto Rico, lives in Florida. 6'1", 200-pounder. He's 23. He won't be 24 till December. Urias delivers a trifle high, ball one, 1-0. Baez has some sock, at least he showed it in the minors, hit as many as 20 and 23. He grew up in Jacksonville, idolizing Alex Rodriguez. Urias out of a stretch. The 1-0 pitch on the way. Slow curveball lifted to left field down the line. Coming over his toes on the track. Makes the catch just in foul ground. Tagging up is Contreras, and he gets into second base. That was a foul ball, but it was right down in the corner. So a long, loud foul. It advanced Contreras, and the batter will be Jason Hamill. 1-0 Cubs. Second inning. Let's see if there's going to be a play at first. Maybe he did leave too early on the catch. We'll see. Gonzalez saying, okay, give it to me. Urias backs off the rubber, then throws to first, and the plate umpire David Rackley says, boys, that looked very good. That throw was on the fly from all the way from Urias to Gonzalez. However, the bottom line, he did leave first after the catch. So Wilson Contreras at second base, 1 out, 1-1, and Jason Hamill checks in. Again, they throw over to first. Doesn't make any difference. I think Gonzalez thought, maybe because you weren't on the rubber and you threw over, why don't you try it standing on the rubber? And Urias said, sure. Threw it over, and Rackley said, on the rubber, off the rubber. He left on time. Now Hamill is a problem. Right-hand batter waves at a slow curve. Any pitcher who has 7 runs batted in is a problem. He has 14 hits, 3 of them doubles. We have a 1-1 tie, just the second inning. 1 out, runner at second base for the Cubs. Strike 1 pitch, instead Urias off the rubber. Oh, and 1 the count. Urias looks, comes back to the plate, gets in for a strike. So he gets out in front of Jason Hamill. No balls, 2 strikes. Hamill, of course, brings that strike zone up at 6'6". Waiting on deck is the leadoff man, Dexter Fowler. The strike 2 pitch coming up. Urias delivers fastball off the plate, and the count 1-2. What a lovely day in the ballpark. Not a cloud in the sky, just 73 degrees. And the Dodgers and the Cubs figures to be a good show. And the same story tomorrow when the Dodgers take a look at John Lester. Here's the 1-2 pitch coming up. In fact, Urias off the rubber. So Hamill waiting. 1-1 tie, top of the second. Bluffing is Contreras at second base. Urias ready, looks back now to the hitter, and the fastball is in there. See you later. So Russell and Soler looked at slow curveballs, but the pitcher looks at a fastball, and that's the third strikeout for Urias. Now Dexter Fowler, being a leadoff hitter, Fowler doesn't have a lot of runs batted in. He has 39, but he walked and scored a run in the first inning. Scoring runs, that's a lot for his game. Fowler has 66 runs scored, 39 knocked in. Utley trying to shadow Contreras and cut down his lead. And the first pitch to Fowler, that's a strike, and the count 0-1. Get a kick about Dexter Fowler. They tell me he has 300 pair of sneakers. 0-1. What do you do with 300 pair of sneakers? No balls and one strike. Yes, right. The answer is, well, obviously he wears a lot of sneakers. Here's the strike one pitch. That's way outside. Acted a little bit almost like a screwball. 1 ball and 1 strike to Dexter Fowler. Contreras at second, 2 out. Utley's trying to keep him there. Urias takes a look. Fowler, who walked and scored to start the game, on a 1-1 pitch takes a strike off speed. 1-2. So Urias tantalizing the Cubs hitters. He uses the fastball sparingly right now. Most of the pitches at about 83 and a couple in the 70s. Now the young left-hander straightens up. The 1-2 pitch to Dexter Fowler, swung on and missed. Down he goes. 4 strikeouts for Urias. 3 left on base for the Cubs in 2 innings. And at the end of an inning and a half, a 1-1 tie. A 1-1 tie. The Cubs have left runners at second and third and a runner at second. Jason Hamill will be working to Grandal, Reddick, and Peterson. Yasmani checking in from the left side, his power side. Hamill's fastball is hit in the air to left and deep. Going back to Soler on the track at the 375 sign and makes the catch. One pitch and one long out. And the 4 outs so far against Hamill have been fly balls. Say, you know, you can receive your Dodger cap Monday, September 5th. Dodgers and Diamondbacks, courtesy of Security Benefit, and available to the first 40,000 fans in attendance. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. 1-1, bottom of the second, and Josh Reddick checks in. Hamill, both feet on the rubber. Big Jason delivers a strike. You know, earlier we were talking about Jason Hamill, the fact that he was having problems with cramps, and the doctors advised him to eat potato chips. Strike one pitch inside, 1-1. And then we were talking before the game about it, and Rob Menchel said, you know they've talked about pickle juice. And then Boyd Robinson said, I've heard about mustard. The pitch swung on and fouled back. Well, going back through the books, Rob Menchel pulled it out, and they were talking to Scott Kazmir about the cure for cramps, and he said electrolyte drink, pickle juice, some spicy mustard, and it works. 1-2 the count. The next pitch is lifted to right field, very playable. Zobrist is there to make the catch. So all 5 outs so far against Hamill are fly balls. And with 2 out, we've been talking about potato chips along with pickle juice, spicy mustard. And we have 2 down. So here's Jock Peterson. Hamill would appear to struggle at a little ballpark like Wrigley Field if everything is hit in the air. But believe it or not, he is 8-1 this year at Wrigley. 5-5 on the road. Right-handed delivers, snaps a good fastball at 93 in there, and the count 0-1. And interesting too, despite the 5 fly balls today, he is the second lowest number of home runs allowed, only 2 since the All-Star break. Strike one pitch, a half swing, and a bad one at that. It was one of those I'm not quite committed. Started the swing, tried to hold up. Jock lost his balance, and the count 0-2. Another thing that Hamill does, he usually wins after the Cubs win. Well, Cubs won last night. No balls and 2 strikes to Jock Peterson. A 1-1 tie, second inning. Hamill turns at 6-6. Back he comes off the plate. 1-2 the count. The Cubs have won 15 of his starts. The one thing, he is tall and lean, and you can run on him. There's the 1-2 pitch in the dirt. So if the Dodgers get people on board, you look for them to run. However, the Dodgers really are not a running club, and they don't have like a Maury Wills in the past. 2 balls and 2 strikes they count. Hamill looks over the fingertips of his glove. Now to the 2-2 change, fouled away. One thing about Hamill, and I guess it's that old line about the little girl with the curl. When he's good, he's very, very good, and when he's bad, he is horrid. Well, when he wins, his earned run average is 1.2. When he loses, his earned run average is 8.5. And a change up, and Peterson way out in front of it, and down he goes. First strikeout for Hamill, first out other than a fly ball. And at the end of 2, a 1-1 tie. Well, cold, hard facts. When you talk about home runs and you talk about the Cubs, you talk about the great Ernie Banks. In '55, he had 44 home runs. Chris Bryant has 35. Sammy Sosa had 33. And Bryant's at the plate right now. Takes a strike. Bryant singled to right, sending Fowler to third, and then the base hit by Rizzo was a run, and it looked like Urias was going to go out on his shield. But he turned around and struck out two kids, Russell and Soler. Bryant, little ground ball to Gonzalez, and we have one out in the third inning.
Number 44, Anthony
During
Rizzo.
the course of a year, every ball club gets jolted with injuries, hamstring pulls, sore neck, sore back, sore arm. Well, the Giants have just announced that they're putting Jake Peavy on the 15-day disabled list with a lower back strain, and they've recalled Albert Suarez from AAA Sacramento. So Suarez is starting today at 6:05 against Atlanta. Here's Rizzo, single to right field in the first inning. First pitch in under the hands, ball one. Dodgers load up the right side. Justin Turner, the middleman. Corey Seager stays at short. Turner's probably 20 feet out in shallow right field. Both Gonzalez and Utley are on the rim. Rizzo takes one at the knuckles for a strike. Because Anthony gets right on top. He's one of those hitters who feel home plate is mine. 1 ball and 1 strike. 1-1 tie in the third. Urias about ready, and his 1-1 pitch on the way is hit into center field for a base hit. So Rizzo just went down and stroked it nicely, and he's 2 for 2.
Number 18, Ben Zobrist.
So 1 run, 4 hits for the Cubs. 1 run, 1 hit for the Dodgers. The home run by Corey Seager. And now Ben Zobrist, who sacrificed in the first inning, hitting .283, 14 home runs, 66 RBIs. Zobrist can play just about anywhere. So far, second base, left field, and right field. And we mentioned played every position except pitch or catch when he was with Tampa Bay. He's one of those quiet, unsung heroes, understandably, when you have guys like Bryant and Rizzo on the team. He shows bunt, takes low. 1 ball and no strikes to Ben Zobrist. Zobrist, right-hand batter. Ben's wife is an accomplished singer. Here's the 1-0 pitch. Taken low, ball 2. Oh, check me. Make it a strike. 1-1. His wife, Juliana, is a Christian rock singer. She's recorded 2 CDs. She's also a songwriter. Nothing like having a wife who can sing after a bad day. 1 ball and 1 strike. We have a 1-1 tie, top of the third. Zobrist waiting. Urias to the plate. Swung on and missed. Zobrist out in front, looking fastball, I guess. And that was only 80 miles an hour. He was almost full swing before the ball got to the plate. 1-2 to Ben. Benjamin Thomas Zobrist, born in Eureka, Illinois, lives in Nashville. 1-2 pitch on the way, outside and high, 2-2. Because if you go to school in Eureka, Illinois, the first thought is, oh yes, that's where President Ronald Reagan went to school. 2 balls, 2 strikes. 1 out, a 1-1 tie in the third. A fastball on the inside corner for a strike. The only time he has really been aggressive with the fastball was against Hamill when he struck him out. But he went right after Zobrist, and Ben now walking away from home plate. So Zobrist is called out on strikes. That would be the 5th strikeout for Urias.
27, Addison Russell.
Addison Russell coming up. Russell struck out in the 1st inning. So Russell looked at a curve. Soler looked at a curve. Hamill looked at a fastball. And now Zobrist looks at a fastball. So they're not on the same page with Urias, despite the fact they've had 4 hits. Urias delivers. Fastball swung on and missed by Russell. 0-1 the count. Addison Russell is an even 6, 195. Florida boy, right-hand hitter, and the strike 1 pitch coming up. Urias works it down and away. 1 ball and 1 strike. The Cubs won 3 out of 4 from the Dodgers in Chicago, so they've won 4 out of 5 from the Dodgers this year. As Joe Madden sips a little liquid down there in the dugout. 1-1 pitch, a comebacker. Urias turns casually, throws to first, and that's the inning. No runs, 1 hit, a man left, and at the end of 2.5 innings, a 1-1 tie. A 1-1 tie, a pitching duel right now between Urias and Hamill. The Cubs have 4 hits for a run, but 5 strikeouts. Hamill has 1, and Andrew Toles drives it to right, but Zobrist is there and must have lost the ball, and instead has to play it off the right field wall. It hit the bottom of the wall, and it looked like Zobrist was just going to go back and catch it. We'll have to slow down the tape on that one. The fly ball to right. Zobrist angling back, and then suddenly quit on the ball, and it hit the base of the wall. So apparently Ben just misjudged it, because it certainly looked like a fly ball for an out. Well, you can't do everything every time. Zobrist comes close, and Andrew Toles has himself a double to right. And the batter, Urias. You know, you do your homework for a ball game, and you try to check in on a pitcher. And for instance, you concentrate on Jason Hamill. And Hamill is a ground ball pitcher. They're looking for a bunt from Urias now. Instead, there's a throw, almost a wild throw, a great save by Russell. So with Toles inching off second base, Hamill went to his shortstop and almost threw it into center field. Anyway, the point I was going to make, Hamill, with everything we knew about him, is a ground ball pitcher. Well, so far, all the outs except for the one strikeout, the 5 other outs have been fly balls, and he just gave up a long fly ball for a double. The pitch is high and away. Contreras ready to fire. Anthony Rizzo is committed. I mean, he is charging the plate. For Bryant, he has to play a little caddy corner with Toles coming down from second. Light breeze now blowing from left to right. Again, Urias shows bunt. Here comes Rizzo. A swing. Line drive. Base hit to left. Soler comes up with it. They will stop Toles. And so Urias, with the infield coming in looking bunt, winds up coming up with his 3rd hit. Now that surprised the Cubs indeed.
Number 26.
Line drive single to left. So again, you're wondering about Jason Hamill. What's all this information about him being a ground ball pitcher? We haven't seen one yet. And Urias just brought the bat back. He bats left-handed and stroked a single. So 1st and 3rd, nobody out, and Chase Utley coming up. Remember, Hamill is 0-4 here at Dodger Stadium. You get him at Wrigley Field, he is 8-1 in the daytime. And the first pitch to Chase in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Chase fly to center in the 1st inning. So you have Toles at 3rd, Urias at 1st, nobody out, bottom of the 3rd, in a 1-1 tie. Hamill out of a stretch. Big right-handed pitch is low, and a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Hamill originally drafted by the Devil Rays. He went to Treasure Valley Junior College in Oregon. One of those kids fortunate. His father designed and built a pitching target for 2 boys. He had a strike zone and a ball retrieving bucket. The 1-1 pitch swung on. There's a ground ball, and it's a base hit into right field. So Toles scores. Urias stops at second, and the Dodgers take a 2-1 lead. So Chase Utley, base hit, run batted in. Toles, whose ball I believe was badly misjudged by Ben Zobrist, comes in to score. Corey Seager is coming up. We'll have a little time to take a look at his home run. Chris Bosio, the pitching coach, going to the mound. For Corey, his 23rd home run. Now, Trevor Story, a rookie with Colorado. He had 27 home runs and banged up his hand, and he's out for the remainder of the year. The all-time rookie shortstop record for home runs is 30 by Nomar Garciaparra of the Red Sox. And Trevor Story probably would have shattered that, but instead he's finished at 27. Corey Seager is also a rookie. He has 23. Rob Destrisny begins to throw in the Cub bullpen. For Jason Hamill, it looks like the numbers are catching up to him as far as the Dodgers are concerned. And here's Seager. 1st and 2nd, nobody out, a run in, check swing. They look at 3rd, and swing, says Alfonso Marquez, and the count 0-1. Dodgers leading 2-1. We're only in the 3rd inning. Jason Hamill is 2-6 lifetime against the Dodgers, 0-4 here, and he is struggling again. Potato chips or otherwise. The next pitch is swung on and missed, but it's also missed by Contreras. It goes to the backstop, and the runners move up to 2nd and 3rd. So for a split second, it looked like foul ball back of the screen, but it wasn't. It was just a clean miss by both the hitter and the catcher. So now Contreras going out. It'll be a wild pitch charge to Jason Hamels. So Utley at second, Urias at third, nobody out, a run in, and the Dodgers lead 2-1. Corey with a chance to pick up at least one. 62 RBIs, and the young shortstop looks at a pitch in the dirt, and Wilson Contreras able to box that and keep it in front of the plate. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Justin Turner on deck. So in the inning, Andrew Toles hit a fly ball to right that certainly appeared to be catchable up here, and then all of a sudden Zobrist going back turned to play it off the wall, and you can tell his judgment was wrong because it hit the very base of the right field wall. Here's the 1-2 pitch, swung on a shot up the middle. The play to the plate in time. Andrew Toles is out. What a wonderful throw by Javier Baez, the young second baseman. And he was not up. I mean, he was back, and he just made a terrific play. Andrew Toles was coming to the plate. He never thought anything about it. And Urias nailed easily on the tag. Toles had already scored. So Urias really didn't expect the second baseman to throw all the way, but a wonderful play by Javier Baez. So the Dodgers lose a run at the plate for the out. Well, there's only one out. They have runners at first and third. Seager at first. Utley moving around to third, and the pitch swung on and fouled back. So a fielder's choice for Corey Seager, with Urias cut down at the plate and Utley advancing to third. Julio toweling off in the dugout. I'm not sure either when there was a play at the plate if there was even anybody telling him whether to slide or not. Strike one pitch is low. I think everybody would be quite surprised that on that ground ball to the second baseman with runners at second and third, he would throw to the plate, but he did. And Urias, quite surprised, came in standing up. 1 ball and 1 strike. Throw to first. Seager back on the bag. Corey has a stolen base, but he's also been caught 3 times. Meanwhile, Turner with a 1 ball, 1 strike count and a fly ball to center, first at bat. 1-1. Hamel ready. Jason delivers, and it's fouled off to the right. Turner had a tough night last night, not only going 0 for 5. Justin struck out twice, grounded out 3 times. Of course, the night before, well, he also hit a home run against Johnny Cueto. Anyway, 1 ball and 2 strikes. That home run beat the Giants 1-0. Giants play at 6:05 as Utley stands at third, Seager at first, and the 1-2 pitch coming up. Hamel set at the belt, checks the runners at the corners. The 1-2 pitch down and away, 2-2. So far, the only ground balls was that single by Utley into right field, and then the ground ball by Seager that caused the out at the plate. 2-2 to Justin. Adrian Gonzalez waiting on deck. Cubs led in the first inning. Dodgers came back to tie, now take the lead. And the 2-2 pitch swung on, ground ball up the middle, base hit. Scoring is Utley, stopping at second is Seager, and the Dodgers lead Hamel and the Cubs 3-1. I'll bet you that kind of gets into Hamel's head. I mean, when he was warming up, he knows he was 2-6 lifetime and 0-4 at Dodger Stadium, and he's given up 3 runs, 5 hits, and the skipper, Joe Madden, is on his way to get him out of there. So Hamel very much not at home at Dodger Stadium. And here in the inning, not showing very much at all. 3 singles and a double. They go to the pen. Hamill, obviously annoyed, gesture with his right hand. I'm not sure whether he didn't like the calls by Larry Vanover. He looks away as he walks over. But a bad day for a 13-game winner, and we'll be back.
29, Rob Zastrinski.
Zastrinski, and if you're watching on television, they spell it out for you: Zastryzny. Zastrinski. And last night I was looking at that name when he was warming up in the bullpen, and I was hoping he wasn't going to come in, to be honest. Anyway, I mentioned the fact that I remember a player who played in San Diego who had a very tough spelling, and he was called Eye Chart. Well, I don't know if they call Zastrinski, but the fella in San Diego who had the nickname of Eye Chart, his last name was Gwosdz, and they pronounce that Goosh. Zastrinski makes his first pitch, and it's a little low to Gonzalez, ball 1. So Jason Hamill, another bad day, a nightmare game at Dodger Stadium. He could wind up 0-5 here and be 2-7 lifetime. Well, he appeared very upset out on the mound. Zastrinski looks in to get his sign. Gonzalez waiting, fly to left field in the first inning. Fastball flips in nicely for a strike. When the Cubs come up in the 4th inning, they have Soler, Contreras, and Baez, and then the pitcher spot. The Cubs with 2 men. Last name begins with a Z. 1-1 pitch, low and away on a check swing. Now suddenly Larry Vanover lifts the right hand, so it's a strike. Robert John Zastrinski is from Edmonton, Alberta. He moved from Canada to Corpus Christi, went to school at the University of Missouri. He was a 2nd-round pick just 3 years ago, and here he is in the big leagues. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Rob ready, delivers, fouled away. Do you mind if I call him Rob? It would make it a lot easier for me if you don't mind. I mean, every time you have to say this. Now, Rob, our good pal Rob. He's 24 years old as he works on Gonzalez. Rob out of a stretch, checks the runners at first and second. Young left-handed ready to come to the plate with 1 out. And it's a breaking ball hit slowly to third. Tough play. Bryant on the run. gets it to first in time. A nice low backhanded catch by Anthony Rizzo. So Gonzalez taps one to third, and he's out. However, the runners move up to second and third. Yasmani Grandal will now turn around and bat right-handed. A very good play by the corners. Fellas known for home runs. Bryant with 35, Rizzo with 25, but both men making a good play defensively. Rob Reddy, the left-handed, delivers on the outside corner for a strike, and the count 0-1. Yasmani Grandal flied to left field in the second inning against Jason Hamill. Dodgers lead 3-1, third inning. Strike one pitch on the way, slow, nubbed in fair ground, picked up the out at first, and that's that. So Grandal hits it up along, squirts it up along about 15 feet. Down he goes. Cubs give up 2, and the Dodgers lead at the end of 3-1. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by the Dodge Challenger. Test drive one at your local Dodge dealer today. And by Jack in the Box. Taste the all-new Jack's Brewhouse Bacon Burger today at Jack in the Box. Limited time only at participating restaurants. One of the great Cubs, Ryne Sandberg, wearing number 23. That's why Chris Bryant has to wear 17. He wanted 23, but that's a sacred number in Chicago. I remember during his years, we always called him Prince Valiant. His hair was just about down to his shoulders, and he was a marvelous player. He came by the booth last night, and that picture's 20 years ago, and his hair perfectly trimmed, no Prince Valiant look, just another one of us guys, but what a player. Ryne Sandberg. Jorge Soler struck out in the first inning. Len Casper, the Cub broadcaster, thought he'd be very kind and give us a note. And the first pitch by Urias all the way to the backstop, ball one. But he said everybody calls Straczynski Rob Z. So we would thank Len, but we decided just to call him Rob. There goes that bat. So Soler I mean, when he loses it, he really loses it. He's already tossed one into the stands, and that one way down the left field line. So apparently he is the most frightening bat thrower since Tony Oliva with the Minnesota Twins. Oliva lost his bat so often they were suggesting they would chain it to his wrists. They'll write it down when Jorge Soler is up there. Never mind looking for a ball, you're liable to get the bat. He struck out in the first inning. Contreras on deck. 3 runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers, 1 run, 4 hits for the Cubs. And Urias' pitch hammered down the line, foul. 1-2. Cubs scored a run in the first inning. Fowler walked. Bryant singled him to third. Rizzo singled him home, and it looked like a rout was on. But Urias got a sacrifice and then struck out Russell and Soler. The Dodgers had Seager homer to tie it up, and the Dodgers break through with 2 in the third and lead 3-1. The 1-2 pitch. Off speed and high. Came in there at 79. We're in the fourth. Fastball away. It's been basically a showcase pitch, that fastball. He did get Hamill looking, and he also got Zobrist looking. 3-2. Fastball for ball 4. So one thing that Urias is not doing, in 4 innings, he's allowed the leadoff man to get on base in 3 of the 4. He walked Fowler in the first. Contreras singled opening up the second, and Soler now walks in the 4th. Only in the 3rd inning did Bryant ground out leading off, but then Rizzo came right back with a base hit. So he's been pitching out of the stretch a lot. The young catcher Contreras 1 for 1, 8 home runs, 26 RBIs. He is just about, from what I understand, ready to become the #1 catcher on the club. That's a strike, off speed. You have Miguel Montero, Wilson Contreras, and the 3rd catcher David Ross, who started his career here back in 2002. He always catches John Lester, so we figure to see David tomorrow. He's going to retire at the end of the year. Strike 1 pitch on the way. Down and away. 1 ball and 1 strike. 3 runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers, 1 run, 4 hits for the Cubs. The Cubs left 4 men in the first 3 innings. Urias ready to make his 66th pitch. Off speed, outside. Contreras started to offer, wisely held up, and the count's his way. 2 balls and 1 strike. Gary Jones, a third base coach, he's almost with the umpire right down the left field foul line. Wise man who knows the hitter. 2-1. Change up, roll it to short. Seager the feed to Utley, the throw to first, not in time. So Contreras going after a change, hits into a force play.
Number 9, Javier Baez.
And Javier Baez coming up. Baez fouled to left field in the 2nd inning. One away. Baez checking in. Fastball on the outside corner for a strike, and the count 0-1. He was the organization minor league player of the year 2 years ago. Prior to that, they never thought he was going to go anywhere. He already holds a little record as he hits a one-hopper to Utley. Quick feed. Seager had to come a long way and still doubles him up. Seager playing in the hole at short, and he was still able to turn the double play on Baez. And we're going to the bottom of the fourth, 3-1 Dodgers.
Off the Dodger hat for fourth inning. Number 11, Josh Reddick.
I mentioned that Javier Baez set a record and then he hit into a double play. Just want to finish it off. He launched the first pitch he ever saw for a home run in the bullpen. Not only for his first big league home run, he became the first player ever to hit a go-ahead home run in extra innings in his major league debut. Maybe not much to you and me, but a big deal indeed for Javier Baez. High fly ball. Zobrist fighting it, angling, trouble, and makes the catch. Tough play, one away. Say, friends, be sure to watch the Dodgers and Giants. Yeah, they're coming back. 3-game series starting Monday, September 19th through Wednesday, September 21st. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/tickets. Don't forget, Giants and Dodgers have 6 games left. 3 here starting on the 19th, and the last 3 starting on September 30th in San Francisco. Here's Jock Peterson, struck out in the second inning. Rob Z into his windup, and first pitch just missing the outside corner. 1 ball and no strikes. Now the next pitch, check swing, but it misses. 2 balls and no strikes. Rob back with an off-speed pitch for a strike. 2-1 the count. 1 out. Peterson at the plate. Andrew Toles on deck. Toles, as usual, doing something, and sure enough, leading off in the 3rd inning, he doubled, and the Dodgers came up with 2 to take the 3-1 lead. 2-2 the count to Jock Peterson, who struck out in the second inning, but that was against Jason Hamill. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Breaking ball, foul back. Cub pitching has done well. We mentioned that the starting pitcher usually wins games. The offense does very well. In fact, the offense gives the Cubs a starting pitcher 4.9 runs. Well, meanwhile, Peterson strikes out for the second out.
Number 60, Andrew Toles.
Andrew Toles coming up. And Andrew hit the ball, really, that's suspect. It was that long fly ball to right field, sitting up here in the comfort of the booth, in the shade of the booth. We looked at Zobrist and we thought, well, he'll go back and make a catch easy. And instead, he turned around, and you could tell in his mind the ball was going to be hard off the wall. But when he turned around, the ball hit the very base of the right field wall, which meant he really misjudged it, and could be the sun. And remember, this is a birthday cake with all the layers. I can't tell whether he has sunglasses on or not. 0-2. But it can be tough here. I remember during the World Series of '66 with Baltimore, Willie Davis, who had played center field here for years, knew the place, and he had a terrible time in the fall fly balls to center field. So if you're playing the outfield here, that's what we just showed you briefly. That's what you're looking for. See the dark areas underneath each level? That's where you try to find the ball, and then of course it's up to you to stay with it. That's going to be hit into right center. Toles is at it again. Zobrist over to scoop it up. So Andrew is 2 for 2. Toles, by the way, was hitting .340. That's right, .340, and he's 2 for 2. So Rob Z gives up the base hit. Great effort by Baez, but he couldn't catch it. And now here's Urias. Showed bunt, only to sing away to left field in the third inning. First pitch, fastball for a strike. Urias outstanding up on that great throw from Javier Baez, the second baseman. 0-1. Another fastball slapped foul. Maybe Urias is going to wind up like Fernando and be a very good hitter. A threat with the bat every time. 2 out, no balls, 2 strikes. Utley on deck. Time. Toles 1 for 1 in stolen bases, but of course he doesn't know the moves of the pitchers in the league, and he has a left-hander up there now. The pitch fouled away. 0-2 to Urias. Julio has struck out about a third of the time, which is very good for a pitcher. Very good. Zastryzny makes his change up, and that's whacked foul. 0-2. Just thought I'd try that. Zastryzny. My pal Rob. Good kid. They tell me he's very, very funny when he's not working. Deadly serious with his career, but very funny guy. 0-2. Fastball overpowered him at 94. So Zastryzny strikes out 2, gives up a base hit, and at the end of 4, 3-1 Dodgers. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. Toyota's annual clearance event is here. Save big on the entire 2016 Prius family. Hurry in today. I like to say it casually. There's Dusty Baker in a Dodger uniform trying to get back to first base. Just a few years ago, 40 years ago to be exact. And the pitch, a strike. Though our pal Rob at the plate. Pitch is left-handed, bats right-handed. 0-2. Considering the fact that you don't expect a pitcher to be much of a hitter, and most of the time you're 100% right. I've always wondered why a left-hand pitcher would bat right-handed. Why would you expose that valuable arm? And you know you're not going to hit anyway. Anyway, Rob Z takes the strike. Down he goes. One away in the fifth inning. That would be strikeout number 6 for Urias. Although he started off on such shaky ground, he's made 72 pitches, and he has allowed 1 hit since a leadoff single in the second. And we're now in the fifth. 0-1 to Fowler. Dexter walked, struck out, 0 for 1. Fastball on the hands. Earlier, it looked like his fastball was just a showcase, threw a lot of off-speed pitches, but now he's turned that thing around and he's starting to challenge people as they come up for the third time. 0-2. 3-1 Dodgers. Another fastball, just missed. That was awfully close. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Off speed and is promptly banged into left field. So from a good fastball that just missed, he came back 79-mile-an-hour change, and Fowler singled. So now you give up a base hit. Now you're looking at Bryant and Rizzo. That's 60 home runs between them. So Julio ticked off at himself. Fowler grateful for the off-speed pitch. And here's Bryant. Bryant singled to right, grounded to first. Last night put on a show. 2 monstrous home runs. And so high as they went out. One hit the hitter's background in center field to the left side of the speaker, that black covering of the seats. And then the other one went into the right center field pavilion. And a fly ball, shallow left field. Tolles is there. So that's the second out, and the batter is Anthony Rizzo.
First baseman Anthony Rizzo.
Anthony Rizzo is 2 for 2. Single to right, single to center. Anthony Rizzo is 6'3" and 220. Chris Bryant is 6'5", 215. So they're the big home run hitters for the Cubs. Dodgers have Justin Turner in shallow right field, and the pitch dips in for a strike. 0-1. Fowler over there at first base certainly can move on the base paths, but he hasn't stolen a lot of bases. I guess playing at Wrigley, you don't have to run people when you can hit so many home runs. He has stolen 8 out of 12, and he has a crafty young left-hander out there in Urias. It's 3-1 Dodgers. 2 out, 5th inning. On that 92-mile-an-hour fastball, Rizzo was really late trying to catch up to it. Anthony Rizzo from Fort Lauderdale lives in Parkland, Florida. No balls, 2 strikes. Ball got away from Gonzalez. You know what happens in baseball? Anthony Rizzo joined the Cubs in 2012, okay? At the time in spring training, there were 52 Cubs. 51 of the 52 are gone. The only guy left is Travis Wood. Shows you how teams turn over. Ball 1. Another surprising thing when you think about it, Anthony was selected in the 6th round by the Red Sox. That meant in that draft in 2007, 202 players were selected before they got to Rizzo. 1 ball and 2 strikes. 2-2. Urias now has made 81 pitches in 5 innings, so give or take 16 pitches an inning. 51 strikes. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Fastball swung on and missed. Good fastball at 93. 7 strikeouts for young Julio. No runs, 1 hit, a man left. And we're going to the bottom of the 5th. 3-1 Dodgers. Three to one in favor of the Dodgers. The youngster waving the Dodger flag with dad alongside. Great pictures in the ballpark. Meanwhile, Rob Z's first pitch a strike, and we're off and running with Chase Utley, Corey Seager, and Justin Turner. Utley fly to center, single to right. Drove in Tolles with his base hit in the third inning. 0-2. Can't get over the play that Utley made on a ground ball by Zobrist in the fifth inning last night. That's the first time I've seen an infielder flat on his back and throw the ball accurately to first base. Big chopper to third. Here comes Bryant's effort. Good throw in time, and just like that, one away. All-star shortstops. Well, there they are. Two great young kids, each 22 years old. Corey, the better hitter for the average, certainly, and the home runs. But Russell, with a lot of men on base ahead of him, 84 runs batted in. He usually bats 6, which means he has, among others, Bryant, Rizzo, and Zobrist hitting in front. So two brilliant young shortstops who figure to be around a long time, I hope. Fly ball, shallow center, Dexter Fowler. That's the second out. 2 down.
Third baseman Justin Turner.
There's one difference why Addison Russell has more RBIs than Corey Seager. First of all, you have to have the opportunity. Russell has had 138 at-bats with runners in scoring position, and he's cashed in 84. Seager has had only 88 at-bats with runners in scoring position, so that's 50 less. But no doubt, no argument, they're two fine young shortstops. All right, 2 out. Here's Turner. That's in there for a strike. 1-1 to Justin. Two balls and 1 strike. 2 out, fifth inning. 3-1 Dodgers. Giants play at 6 o'clock tonight. Change hit in the air to right center, coming over for it. Room service fly ball to Zobrist, and the Dodgers go quietly. So at the end of 5, Dodgers 3 and the Cubs 1. 1955, that was the year the Dodgers won the championship in Brooklyn. Sandy Koufax made a start in Ebbets Field. It was a Saturday afternoon. He not only shut out the Reds 2-0, he allowed only 2 hits and struck out 14. How many people do you think were in there to see Sandy? 7,000 people on a Saturday afternoon. Let's go back to this one. That's a strike. 0-1. I learned a great lesson. I was thinking of when I saw that. We checked what day was it and what game was it. Ground ball up the middle. Seager can't get it. So Zobrist winds up with a base hit to open up the 6th inning. So it could have been a drizzly Saturday afternoon. The reason why they only had 7,000. I remember my first year way back then. It was a rainy Saturday in April, and I had a little raincoat and a little hat because of the rain. And the game was over, and there was only one door in which you left Ebbets Field. And being Saturday, there must have been 1,000 young kids in the ballpark, and they were all across the street behind wooden sawhorses to keep them away. And the players were coming out of that doorway. The Dodgers were playing the St. Louis Cardinals. That's a strike to Russell. I opened up the door. I had my collar up and a little hat on, and I came out, and the crowd exploded. And the next thing I know, there are hundreds of kids running towards me with paper and pencil and pens. They want an autograph. And I am completely blown away. And I stopped dead, and there I am amidst 500 people. And the nearest kid to me, I was starting to write my name on the piece of paper. And way in the back, a kid hollered, "Who is it?" And the kid up front said, "Vin Scully?" And the kid in the back said, "Oh, he's nobody." And the 500 kids walked away. That's going to go down the line, foul, out of play. And I think what happened was, with the raincoat and the collar up and the red hair, I think they thought it was Red Schoendienst, because he played for the Cardinals back then. I never forgot that. And you know what? He was right. Who the heck was I? Just a kid broadcaster. He's nobody. Zobrist at first. Addison Russell struck out, hit back to the box. Urias has done very well. He's made 87 pitches. The Dodgers, there's no one throwing yet, but they have a look. They're going to get somebody up, and very soon. Pedro Baez. 1 ball, 2 strikes. So anyway, a long-winded story to tell you. My guess was Koufax pitching August, pretty much unknown. Saturday afternoon, maybe drizzly. And a 2-hit shutout. 14 strikeouts. The beginning of the great Koufax. That's pop foul, out of play. 3 runs, 6 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. 1 run, 6 hits, no errors for the Cubs. Travis Wood, left-hander, gets up in the Cub bullpen. Travis, very impressive last night. He pitched the 9th inning. Took care of Seager, Turner, and Gonzalez, and then Aroldis Chapman came in with that 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and that was that. 1-2. In the dirt. Nice block by Grandal. Well, the pitch count, he's coming up to 90. Let's look at his work. He has made 1 game where he made 100 pitches. That was back in June in Milwaukee. His last game, 97, went 6 innings against Cincinnati. So here comes number 90. And down goes Russell, striking out a second time. That's 8 strikeouts for Julio Urias. Say, come to Dodger Stadium 2 hours before the game tomorrow for Viva Los Dodgers. presented by State Farm and Time Warner Cable. Remember, entrance to Viva Los Dodgers is free. You need a game ticket. So for tickets, visit Dodgers.com/Viva. All right. Urias very much on the beam despite a very slow start. No real rough inning after the first inning. In the first inning, the first three men facing him got aboard. Fowler walked, Bryant singled to right, Rizzo singled to right to score Fowler, and it looked like school was over for Urias, and he has just turned completely around. He's allowed 3 hits and nothing more. Change, but away. That's the great thing about that change. I don't know if you can see it on television, but that thing was not floating straight. It came up and then suddenly it started to die like a weary butterfly. Yeah, you can't really tell, but if you're sitting up here, it's amazing to watch it sail away. 1 ball and no strikes. Two and 0. Urias, 16 years old when the Dodgers signed him, working on Jorge Soler. Two and 1. It's that changeup that seems to just fade down and away. That's been a big pitch, and he has it made at such a tender age. Ground ball back at third. Nice backhand pickup. They get 1 and 2. Oh, what a neat play by Justin Turner. Turned what might have been an extra base hit into a double play. It's right down the line. He backhands, comes up, and starts it. Turned by Utley. Close at first. No runs a hit and nobody left. At the end of 5 1/2, 3-1 Dodgers. The high school senior athlete, you can nominate him for a sports championship drive scholar athlete and receive a $2,500 college scholarship. So go to TWCSchamp.com right now for more information. Bottom of the 6th inning, Gonzalez, Grandal, and Reddick in that order. Urias, by the way, had a 12-pitch inning, so his pitch count now is up to 94. A couple of things have helped him. Dodgers have turned 2 double plays. Plus, he has walked only 2 while striking out 8. 0-1. Gonzalez flied to left, grounded to third, so he's gone the other way twice. And a strike. Adrian, 0-2 count. Hit foul. Still 0-2. Rob Z in there doing a good job. Jason Hamill lasted 2 1/3 innings in what must be his most unfavorable ballpark in the National League. Ground ball up the middle. Baez picks it up, makes the throw, and got him. Boy, he's got some arm, that kid at second base. He had to go a long way. Admittedly, Adrian is not going to break any speed records, but even so, Baez went a long way. There he goes. And now the off-balance throw. And he gets it there in plenty of time. So mark that down. Javier Baez. Quite a young, good-looking second baseman. 1 out in the 6th. Yasmani Grandal. Ball 1. Meanwhile, this young left-hander with a difficult last name is a very difficult pitcher to bat against. He has held the Dodgers to 1 hit since he took over in the 3rd inning, and that hit was by Andrew Toll. He's not overpowering people. He has struck out 2, but he's just been right on target. 2-0. In there. Josh Reddick on deck. Scoring early as we see Pedro Baez off speed. 2-2. Cubs had 2 base hits and a walk for a run. They left second and third in the 1st inning. Seager homered to tie up the game 1-1. And then in the 3rd, the Dodgers scored 2, chased Hamill, and that's it. 3-1 Dodgers. Bottom of the 6th. When the Cubs come up in the 7th inning, they're due to have the catcher Contreras, then their Baez, the second baseman. That'll take care of Grandal, and then probably a hitter for Rob Z.
Right fielder, Josh Reddick.
2 down, 3-1, favor of the Dodgers. Reddick twice hitting fly balls to right field. Breaking ball strike. 0-1. And a high fly ball to right, running parallel. The right fielder Zobrist on the track for the long out. So down go the Dodgers. 1, 2, 3. Nice job by Rob Z. He goes 2/3 of an inning and then 3 more and allows just 1 hit. 3-1 Dodgers. Sportsnet LA is brought to you by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop online at choosenissan.com. And by Children's Hospital Los Angeles. We treat kids better. Pedro Baez coming out of the Dodger bullpen. Julio Urias went 6 innings, allowed 1 run. It came in the first inning. He allowed 6 hits. He walked 2 and he struck out 8. Tremendous job by Julio. So now Pedro trying to pick up the burden with 3 innings left. Contreras, then Javier Baez, and we'll see about a hitter for Rob Z. Wilson single to left, hit into a force play. The hits against Urias, Contreras had 1, Zobrist 1, Rizzo 2, Bryant and Fowler 1 each. And we're in the 7th with the wind picking up. Good bunt up along third. Baez picks it up and throws it wildly. And on his way to second base is Contreras easily. What a smart idea against a reliever. You're surprised it doesn't happen more often. You know, a guy comes in from the bullpen. He isn't really in the game yet. And immediately you test him. It was a great bunt. And then Baez, instead of letting it go by, tried to force the issue and threw it over Gonzalez's head. So the Dodgers lead 3-1, but Contreras is there. It'll be a bunt single and error 1. So Baez will be ready to pitch to Javier Baez. Javier Baez flied to left, hit into a double play. Pedro Baez from the Dominican, no relation. Baez, who's from Puerto Rico, fouled out, hit into a double play. And ball 1. Jason Hayward comes out on deck. He would bat for Rob Z. One ball and no strikes. Fastball low, 2-0 the count. Pedro throws very hard, but of course not as hard as Aroldis Chapman, who threw a whole bunch last night at 101 and a couple at 103. But certainly 97 should get the job done. 2-0. And hit foul, out of play, and the count 2-1. The Cubs are pretty optimistic about him. They figure he has maybe on the scale of 20 to 80. They figure he might become a 70 power hitter and could eventually hit 25 home runs. That's one of those long ball projections. He did learn a bit from Manny Ramirez when he was in Des Moines. Travis Wood and Trevor Cahill are up in the pen for the Cubs. Two balls and one strike. So a bunt single and an error. Contreras at second. Dodgers trying to hang on to a 3-1 lead. Foul back, 2-2. It was August of 2014, and Javier Baez became the first Cub player ever with a multi-home run game in his third career game. Actually, it's only the 23rd time that it happened in Major League history. And the last player to do it, you're right, Yasiel Puig, who went that way twice in his second career game. 2-2 the count to Javier Baez. So the Puerto Rican Baez and the Dominican Baez going head to head in timeout. And they have called balk on Pedro. No one moving to even inquire about it. So a balk moves Contreras to third. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Boy, that's a killer. You could see Larry Vanover backing away and indicating balk. What he did, I don't know. You'd really have to be an umpire to watch that carefully. All right, 2-2 the count. Nobody out. Javier at the plate. And a high foul ball out of play. This Baez, 23 years old. He will be 24 in December. I don't have any record of him being beaned, but obviously he has been, to wear that kind of a protective helmet. Remember, on deck, Jason Hayward. Nobody out. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And big bounce to the third. Turner looks at the runner, then goes to first. So Baez hit it hard, but right at Justin Turner. So he's disappointed. 1 out. Jason Hayward will now be coming up. Hayward started in last night's game. Had 2 fly balls to center. He popped up and then finished strong. Doubled in the 9th inning and scored the tying run, and singled in the 10th inning. Hitting .227, which is not much for Hayward. Jason Hayward, among other things, has 1 sacrifice fly. The infield's back except for Justin Turner. So if he just makes contact, it figures anywhere but third base, he'll pick up a run. It's 3-1 Dodgers. And a fly ball, slicing foul out of play, and the count 0-1. Julio Urias in trouble in the first inning with the first 3 hitters, a walk and 2 singles, and then was magnificent. Now Pedro gives up the bunt single, throws it away for an error, commits a balk, and the Cubs have a runner at third with 1 out. Hayward has a pinch hitter trying to pick him up with Fowler on deck. 0-1. That's a strike. So Hayward now 0-2. Hayward, from the day he started, everybody thought he was going to be a superstar. Remember, he was seriously beamed by Jason Neese, though he has never reached the heights that people expected. No balls, 2 strikes. One and two. Remember, the Cubs in the first inning, Fowler walked, Bryant singled him to third, Rizzo singled him home. There was a sacrifice, and the Cubs had second and third and 1 out and came up empty. Well, now they have a runner at third with nobody out, and Javier Baez grounded out. So the runner's still there with 2 strikes on Hayward. Fouled away. Wasn't much of a swing by Jason. It was as if that bat weighed about 50 ounces. Contreras down the line from third. One and two. Slap foul again. Jason Hayward signed an 8-year deal back in 2015, so he'll be around for a while. He's one of those rarities. He hit a home run his first major league at bat for Atlanta, and the home run, who did it beat? The Cubs. He's had 3 Gold Gloves. Foul back. Big battle here. Runner at third, 1 out. Dodgers lead by 2, but we're only in the 7th. And that's slapped into left field, base hit. So the run comes in. Hayward now is the tying run at first base. So what a killer for Pedro Baez. A bunt single, he throws it away and commits a balk, and a single picks up the run. So a nice at bat for Jason Hayward. Single left, run batted in, brought in by Contreras. And the batter now, Dexter Fowler, with Chris Bryant on deck. So Contreras starts to bring the Cubs back. You have to remember how well the Cubs have played. You know, they're 19-4 in August. Since the All-Star break, Joe's club is 29-10. They've won 23 of the last 28. And on the road, Joe Maddon's team has won 8 of the last 10. It's a great young ball club, winning 82 games already. I mean, the Nationals have won 75. The Dodgers have won only 71 games, so it's a big difference. Fowler walked, scored a run, struck out and singled. 1 for 2. On 1. I think it was a key play and a heads-up play by young Wilson Contreras. Baez had no sooner gotten to the mound, made his 8 warm-ups, and the very first pitch, Contreras bunted. That was kind of a shock. Baez came down to pick it up and then threw it away, then committed a balk. Oh, 1. Way outside. Should you get down to Anthony Rizzo, Bryant hits next, then Rizzo. Adam Libator is up in the Dodger bullpen for one reason, to face Rizzo, who is 2 for 3. 1 ball, 1 strike. Dodgers 3, Cubs 2. 7th inning, 1 out. Last night, you remember, the Dodgers scored early, led 3-1 and 4-2, only to let it get away 6-4. One ball and 1 strike. There goes the runner. The pitch is high. The throw is on the money. Got him. So Joe Madden rolling the dice, running the tying run, only to have Hayward cut down. Perfect throw by Grandal. It was there in plenty of time. So 2 down and a 2-1 count on Fowler. The only surprise is he didn't wait a pitch. Running 2-1 instead of 1-1, and Hayward hung out to dry. So 2-1 to Fowler. Unintentionally fouled away on a check swing. Fowler 1 for 2, scored a run. On deck, Chris Bryant. That, of course, another gamble by Madden to run the tying run when you have Bryant in the on-deck circle. 2-2. And ball 3. The Hayward a race trying to steal. Great throw by Yasmani Grandal. He had him out from me to you. Big pitch now. They don't want to look at Bryant with a man aboard. So this is a huge pitch. 3-2. 2 out. Fouled away. By the way, although Aroldis Chapman does throw unbelievably hard, that was an eye-popping 99 miles an hour by Pedro Baez. He's 6'2", but he checks in about 230. He is a big man. So again, a huge pitch. 3-2 with 2 out and Bryant on deck. And fouled out of play. So Dexter fouling off some smoke. Once again, 3-2. Bryant on deck is 1 for 3, a single. Way outside. Whoa. So again, that was kind of a gamble by Joe Madden, but he knows his ball club. But he runs Hayward, who's nailed. Now Fowler walks. And here comes Bryant, who can certainly change a game in a hurry. Bryant singled to right, grounded to first, and then flied to left. One of the things bothering Pedro Baez, and Rick Honeycutt's going to have to talk to him, the Cubs are driving Baez crazy by fouling off pitches. He's made 22 pitches, and just about half of them have been fouled away, which eventually gets to you. All right, Bryant singled, grounded out, flied to left. Last night had 2 home runs, 1 in the 8th, 1 in the 10th to win it. He also walked and scored a run. Big young man out of Las Vegas. His name, as we mentioned, linked always with Bryce Harper. They both played for and against each other in Vegas, each in his own way. Was always brought up when you talk about young players, and it was nobody's surprise that they each came to the majors and made noise immediately. Always remember Joe Madden's advice to young Chris Bryant: don't let the pressure exceed the pleasure. And ball 1. Bryant 16 home runs last year, but he has 35 as he waits to the plate. He is 6'5", 215 pounds, 24 years old. Now remember, Chris Bryant on a 1-ball, no-strike count is hitting about .487. 7 of his home runs have been hit 1-0. He's 19 for 39, 1-0. And the count 1-0. 2-0. The home run that Chris hit last night in the 10th inning. The count was 1-0. No rest for the weary. You try to pitch around Bryant, and then you're going to get Anthony Rizzo. Pedro's given up 2 hits and a walk. He balked, made a throwing error, and he's trying to clear all of that out of his mind. That's a strike. Bryant, with all of his power, is a .300 hitter. He's also stolen 8 bases. Two and one. Little foul ball. 2-2. Dodger bullpen with Rizzo up. So Adam Liebertor's been getting ready for him. And now he's been joined by Jesse Chavez. Well, maybe they're thinking they might have to pitch around Rizzo and then Zobrist. For Baez, it's been a tough inning already. 26 pitches, 26 minutes. 2-2 with 2 out. Fowler at first, 3-2 Dodgers. Boy, it's a good game. Last night was a tough game. Hope you'll be out here with us tomorrow if you possibly can. Cubs and Dodgers. It's one of the rare times. Usually when the Dodgers play the Giants and that series ends, there's kind of a letdown. I mean, the Giant-Dodger rivalry is so great, but not this week. You play Giants and Dodgers, and then the Cubs with Joe Madden. Whoa, that's a much bigger challenge. Two and two to Chris Bryant. Foul back. So those foul balls are killing Baez. 2-2. Pedro's 28. Been pitching as a pro just for a few years, about 4. Bryant really has been playing only 3 years. 2-2. Time. Fowler at first, 2 out, and a 2-ball, 2-strike count. That was pretty close. As far as Baez is concerned, it's like trying to defuse a bomb. He's in absolutely no hurry. at 98. Well, it figured, didn't it? It'll come right down. 3-2, 2 down. The tying run will be running. Just missed in there. And remember, Rizzo on deck. And I assume Liberatore warming up is getting ready for him. But this is the moment. 3-2. This is like a World Series moment, isn't it? Runner goes, ball 4. Enter Anthony Rizzo, and it looks like Pedro Baez will be coming out, and Adam Liberatore will be coming in, I would assume. First of all, Roberts waves to the pen where Liberatore was. So a big play really in the inning was the fact with 1 out they ran Haywood and he was thrown out. So Baez battled. Haywood watching. That was a huge out, and we'll be right back.
Pitching for the Dodgers, number 36.
LA is brought to you by BMW. See a Southern California BMW Center today for exceptional offers. What does it go? I must go down to the sea again. Well, we go right to the mound at Dodger Stadium. Adam Liberatore, you may remember, came into the game in the 10th inning last night. The first man he faced, Dexter Fowler, singled to center. The next man he faced was Chris Bryant, who hit a 2-run home run. Then he got Rizzo, but he gave up a single to Zobrist and finally got out of the inning, not before giving up yet another hit. So meanwhile, for Baez, a nightmare inning, a bunt single. He tries to throw to first, throws it away. Then he balks, then gives up a base hit to the pinch hitter Haywood, who, fortunately for the Dodgers, was thrown out trying to steal because Fowler walked and Bryant walked, and Pedro had to come out. All right, with runners in scoring position, you say, tell me about Rizzo. Well, he's hitting .353 with runners in scoring position. Anthony Rizzo. Oh, and 1. Rizzo, 6'3", 220 pounds, a picture of health, but the picture is not true. He was diagnosed when he was with the Red Sox with limited state classical Hodgkin's lymphoma. Oh and 1. In the dirt, gets away, but not far enough. The runners fail to advance. Yep, that's right. As good looking and big and strong as Anthony Rizzo is, he had classical Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is another word for the dreaded cancer. His mom organized a walkathon to raise money for the family foundation, raised more than $100,000. He remembers, so whenever he has time, he'll visit a children's hospital in Chicago. 1 ball and 1 strike. Fowler at second, Bryant at first, Rizzo at the plate, single to right, single to center, and struck out, so he went 2 for 3 against Urias. Pedro alone with his thoughts, and that's a tough spot to be in. One and 1. Ground ball hard, but right where Gonzalez is, he'll take it to the bag. So again, the outside of the throwing area and the balk, the biggest gamble was running Hayward. That changed the whole inning around. So they get 1, and at the end of 6 1/2, it's 3-2 Dodgers. Ahead for the Dodgers. Well, just 1 game at home. That's tomorrow with the Cubs, and the Dodgers will have the pleasure of going up against John Lester, who is 14-4. Then the Dodgers will be off on Monday, actually it's Thursday, and hit the road, and then they'll be back after 3 in Colorado and an off day to play San Diego and Arizona. But today is the day, and now's the time, Josephine, as Trevor John Cahill, born in Oceanside, still lives there. Trevor, 6'4", 225, right-handed all the way. And ball 1. to Jock Peterson. Jock today has struck out twice against Hamill in the second inning. Astros did a great job, struck him out again in the fourth. Rob Z went 3 2/3, allowed, well, 1 run, but it was not his. Just 1 hit. Great job. 2-1, way out in front. Trevor John Cahill working on Jock. Trevor signed by the A's out of high school and then came over to the National League with the Diamondbacks. Line drive backhanded by Russell. 1 out here in the 7th. Andrew Toles coming up.
Fielder, number 60,
Toles has
Andrew
double to
Toles.
right, single to right, 2 for 2. Look at that average, 365. Cahill, when he was in high school, good breaking ball. He was a shortstop for 2 years. In fact, before 2006, and that was when he was drafted, he'd pitched 19 innings in his life. They also say that Trevor was an outstanding student. He had a 4.6 grade point average. He was 5th in a class of about 650 students. On his SAT, 1950 out of 2,400. 0-2. So he committed to go to Dartmouth as a senior from Vista High School in San Diego. Dodgers now send up Charlie Culberson. He will bat for Liberatore. Liberatore got into the game with a base hit in the 10th inning last night. Three to 2 Dodgers. Tough ball game and a strike. Jesse Chavez warming up in the Dodger bullpen. Little slider in there for a strike. 0-2. Charlie in a hole up there. No balls, 2 strikes. Little foul ball. For Trevor Cahill, signed with the A's and eventually bounced around from the A's to the Diamondbacks, then down in the minors, then up with the Braves, then over to the Cubs, back down to the minors, and back up a year later with the Cubs. In the dirt. Trevor has a reputation, even though he is a strikeout pitcher, he gets a lot of ground balls and doesn't allow too many walks. Basically, fastball, curveball, a knuckle curve, a slider, a changeup, 2-seamer, like most, pretty good sinker that he serves up to left-hand hitters. 2-2 to Charlie Culberson, over the top and a little high, ball 3. The paid attendance, 49,000. 4-9-5-2-2. And they're seeing a playoff game, almost a World Series game. Fastball, got him. Come back, Charlie. So Cahill strikes out 2. We have 7 innings in the books, and it is 3-2 in favor of the Dodgers. against the high-flying Cubs. Jesse Chavez will begin to try to restore some order. His last game, you remember, Jesse pitched very well. 2 strong innings against the Giants. He'll be facing Ben Zobrist, then Addison Russell and Jorge Soler. Slow curveball for a strike, 0-1. Zobrist sacrificed, struck out, and singled. Ben, 14 home runs, can play just about anywhere. 0-1. Fastball comebacker. Now that's a pretty good trick. Big slow curve for a strike, and you get a comebacker on a fastball, and we have 1 down.
Shortstop number 27, Addison Russell.
Addison Russell coming up, struck out, grounded back to the box, struck out again. He came up in the first inning and had a big at bat. Second and third, 1 out when he struck out, and then Soler came up and he struck out. So the Cubs already had 1 in the bank, and they blew what could have been a big inning. Dodgers came back to lead them 3-1, and the Cubs got a run in the 7th, so they trail 3-2. High pop fly, Utley. Utley's calling, telling Seager to stay away. 2 down. So that'll bring up Soler, who struck out, walked, and hit into a double play. The Cubs have hit 163 home runs, and the Dodgers have hit 155. You would have to say it's probably a little bit easier to hit a home run in Wrigley than it is at Dodger Stadium. Basically, this certainly is known as a pitcher's park. One and 0. Good fastball, a lot of life to it. 1-1. Jesse's from Victorville, lives in Riverside now. Jesse David Chavez, 6'2", and he's lucky if he weighs 160. 2-1. Jesse turned 33 the 21st of August. 2-1. Got it in there, off speed. 2-2. Two out, 8th inning, 3-2 Dodgers. Giants play tonight at 6:05. Giants are in trouble. Jake Peavy was supposed to pitch tonight, although he hadn't pitched well this year. Albert Suarez has been called up. Peavy's put on the DL with a bad back. Tough break for a wonderful pitcher. 3-2. Ground ball. That vacuum cleaner down there named Turner. Nice inning for Jesse. Down they go. 1, 2, 3. So we're heading for the bottom of the 8th inning. 3-2 Dodgers. Dodgers, bottom of the 8th inning. Matt Caesar now stakes in left field. He will bat 9th in the lineup, which means he'll bat 3rd in the 9th inning. So Matt out there in left. On the mound, Travis Wood, who pitched so nice and easily the 9th inning last night, went 1-2-3 for Travis. A record of 4-0. And it'll be the top of the order. The left-hand batters, Utley, followed by Seager. Ball 1. Utley has flied to center, single to right, and lifts one into shallow center. A trio of Cubs. It'll be the second baseman. That's Baez making the catch. And quickly we have one out. Corey Seager coming up, and in the first inning connected. Dodgers were trailing 1-0. He hit one into dead center. His 23rd home run of the year. That tied up the game. Corey with 62 runs batted in. Pitch in for a strike, 0-1. Travis Wood out of Little Rock, Arkansas. Been with the Cubs after being originally signed by the Reds, and he came over to the Cubs in 2012. Remember, I was talking about the turnover of the 52 players when Bryant joined the club. The only one left of the 52 is Travis Wood. Foul back. 0-2 the count. Seager hit his home run on the 0-1 count. He's done very well in the whole 0-1, but that doesn't mean 0-2. He had a slow April, and he's been Mr. Consistency ever since. In the dirt. He hit 250 in April, and then 301 in May, 343 in June, 347 in July, and hello, 379 in August. 1-2. Two balls and two strikes. Travis Wood is a very good pitcher, and so is Kenley Jansen. And Kenley's in the pen. Travis did something that most pitchers would give anything for. He hit a grand slam home run in May of 2013. That's fouled away. And that was the first grand slam at Wrigley by a pitcher since 1972. From Arkansas, he grew up idolizing the Braves, trying to get Seager with Turner on deck. 1 out. Seager homered, reached on a fielder's choice in the 3rd inning, and flied to center. Three and two. It was Seager who hit the ground ball to Javier Baez, and Baez, playing second base at a normal depth, threw Urias out at the plate. Three and two. Fastball that might have been moving outside, but with 2 strikes, he couldn't afford to just take it. Travis Wood, as a kid, grew up watching a lot of Greg Maddux and Tommy Glavine, so that had to certainly help him. Maddux, Glavine, I automatically think of John Smoltz, who is here today broadcasting the game. Three and two. Fastball line drive off Wood's glove. Picks it up, throws to first and gets him. Boy, that thing was blistered. So Seager hits it hard, but thrown out. Good defensive play by Travis Wood. And Justin Turner coming up. Justin Turner flied to center, single to center, and last time up flied to right. 1-4-3. To look ahead in the ninth inning, the Cubs are due to send up Contreras, Baez, and Caesar, the young left fielder. And the Dodgers getting ready to bring in Kenley Jansen, who had a bit of a pitcher's nightmare last night. Three runs, 6 hits for the Dodgers, 2 runs, 8 hits for the Cubs. Cubs left runners at second and third in the first inning. Had the tying run thrown out trying to steal in the 7th inning. Just off the plate. Fastball at 92. Wood was a wonderful starting pitcher. In fact, if you go back to 2013, Travis had 17 quality starts. 6 innings, 3 runs or less. He was an all-star, and his role has changed now very much in relief. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Fouled away. So Turner hanging in as usual, battling. He's a true grinder. And ball 3. Basically Wood with the fastball, a changeup. He has a cutter, curveball. He also had a slider. On deck, Adrian Gonzalez. His changeup has always been dynamite, but the fastball is grounded right to Baez. Javier takes care of him. So, just as he did last night, Travis Wood goes 1-2-3. So let me see how the Dodgers have done. That's 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 in a row since the base hit by Andrew Toll. 3-2 Dodgers, 9th inning. Here comes Kenley. Follow Dodger Baseball live with the MLB.com at-bat app. That's the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and your tablet. Well, there are two things required of a successful reliever. One, you have to have a great memory for the good things, and you have to be the most forgettable memorizer when it comes to the bad things. Turn the page and get on with it, because last night was a bit of a nightmare, all because of a leadoff double in the 9th inning by Jason Hayward. That just seemed to upset him. Kept looking back at Hayward as if he was going to steal third, and it just ruined the inning for him. That's a strike to Contreras. The catcher single to left, hit into a force play, and remember, bunted for a base hit on the first pitch of Pedro Baez. Took second on the bad throw, was balked to third, and came home on a base hit by Hayward. But the biggest play late in the game, Jason Hayward thrown out trying to steal second base. Great throw by Grandal to Seager to get him. For Jansen, remarkable numbers: 9 walks, 78 strikeouts. Make it 79. So with 1 out, the batter will be Javier Baez. So Jansen, not quite, but almost 9-1 strikeouts to walks. Remarkable. Don't forget, you're going to join us tomorrow. Hope so. Yeah, John Lester, 14-4. That'll be quite a challenge for the Dodgers. They have brought up a youngster to pitch tomorrow, Brock Stewart. Fly ball, very playable. Andrew Toles is there. So the Cubs are down to their last out. They have beaten the Dodgers 4 out of 5, so the Dodgers trying to hang on and pick up their second win.
Left fielder number 20, Matt Caesar.
Matt Caesar coming up. There's another eye chart. We were talking about Rob Z. How about that one? SZCZUR. And it comes up Caesar. Thank goodness. Rob is from Cape May, New Jersey. Went to school at Villanova. He's a football player. And he has his foot in the door. 2 down in the 9th. Strike. Dodgers, remember, by losing last night, were only 1 game in front of the Giants. Giants have lost Peavy with a bad back. He couldn't pitch tonight. He's out on the DL. So the Dodgers could be back in front by 2. We'll see. And that will start at 6:05 at AT&T Park. Well, they're up and at 'em. Big crowd today, 49,522. When the game started, the temperature was 73 degrees. It was heaven. 0-2. Check swing foul. Waiting on deck, Dexter Fowler. The games have been a struggle for the Dodgers. They did not chance to see Arrieta, who no-hitted them last year. 0-2 to Max Caesar. Ball 1. 2-2. Caesar hitting .283. Has 5 home runs, 22 runs batted in. So there you go with Kenley, 80 strikeouts and 9 walks. What a remarkable set of numbers as he strikes out 2 in the 9th inning. Cubs wind up 2 runs and 8 hits, no errors. Dodgers win it on 3 runs, 6 hits, and 1 error. Jansen took 10 pitches to shut down the Cubs, and so the so-called rubber game will be tomorrow. And of course, hats off today to the left-hander Julio Urias, who went 6 innings, allowed 1 run, and struck out 8. Great performance. So tomorrow is the day when John Lester, and that will be an interesting performance. The Dodgers will try with young Brock Stewart, who is 0-2. We'll see if it's a mismatch or not. Until then, we'll see you tomorrow afternoon, and right now wish you all a very pleasant good afternoon, everybody.